subtract my age from the buy this car to drive to work to pay for this car, buy this car to drive to work.
Welcome to Yellow Brick Road. I am Jordan, and today I am doing a fan request video. It is Paget Kagy making a rebuttal to the Humanist report, basically based on Bernie Sanders' federal jobs guarantee versus Andrew Yang's UBI. And I'm going to react to Paget Kagy's video. Yeah. But first, please consider donating to Devon's Journey to Recovery. The GoFundMe link is down there in the description box. Click that link, check out the donations, read the story, see how she's doing. There's updates there. I don't know if they updated it in a while, but you can still check it out. People are still donating, so please donate. Devon's Journey to Recovery. None of the money goes to us. It just helps one of our subscribers and his wife out with medical bills because we don't have health care for everyone. So please donate. Devon's Journey to Recovery. GoFundMe link down there in the description box. Alright. Now, I did a video from Paget Kagy before. You can find that in our videos section. It was basically about her perception of what Bernie Sanders fans are like compared to Andrew Yang fans, I guess. I don't know why someone would do such a thing. I'd rather compare the candidates. So that's what she's doing. I accept it. So let's hear her rebuttal to the Humanist report.
Now, I first want to say I don't know this channel. I don't know this guy. There doesn't seem to be anything wrong with him. He seems like a perfectly nice human being who is, trying to make sense of things the best way he can. But I will just say that his analysis is just based on imperfect logic and just a lot of assumptions. And it's just not.
I already have a problem with that. The idea of perfect and imperfect logic. If you say something's imperfect, that means you're knowledgeable of what is perfect. So I question that from the jump. But she's just using words, and sorry, I like philosophy too much.
It's just not, as a whole very informed or big picture, even though he says that we need to look at the big picture a lot in this video. But I would actually argue that he is much smaller picture or maybe backward picture on this. So I'm just going to go through the video point by point with each of his criticisms, and I am just going to offer a response.
When Bernie Sanders says that people want to work, he's not necessarily saying that they want to work exclusively for the federal government, but what he's saying is that people enjoy working. They like doing things. I mean, when I was on unemployment, when I lost my job, I was bored. Like within a month, I felt desperate. Like it was nice to get a little bit of a break, but I mean, I was ready to go back to work because I wanted to do something, right? People genuinely want to work.
I would probably have the same response she's having right now. Like, okay, that's a dog shit reason. That's a dog shit human reason for having a federal jobs guarantee. I think what the answer we really want is if you want to work, like you don't care where you work, you just want to have something that's guaranteed money, guaranteed benefits. There's a union there, so you can even negotiate benefits. That's what the federal jobs guarantee is for. As opposed to, oh, people want to work. Well, not everyone wants to do retrofitting for solar panels. They want to do other shit too. So let's hear her counter.
Okay, so he brings up this whole point of people want to work, right? And this is such, I mean, even Bernie uses this, but this is such a common argument against UBI, and it's inherently a flawed argument. You're inherently arguing against yourself, because if you take the premise that people want to work, which I agree they do, then why giving them $1,000 a month will actually try and prevent them from trying to contribute in the way that they feel is the most meaningful and purposeful and the most useful to society?
I'll let her finish her argument.
And to themselves. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. Because, yeah, if I get $1,000 a month, I'm probably going to still want to work or contribute in some way and try to supplement that, right? Now, if you're asserting that people have an inherent desire to work for the government doing some whatever task or job, and people have that inherent biological desire, then yes, your argument holds water. But unfortunately, that's just untrue. It's mostly untrue. People don't want to just work in a job doing menial tasks that serve no real purpose to themselves and their, identity, or even necessarily see how it's contributing to society. Most people do not want to do that in order to make a living. I do.
All right, both Paget and I think his name is Mike something. Both of them are trying to take something that's supposed to be focused on the negative, and they're trying to turn it into as in it's a plan of positivity. Now let me explain that. The $1,000 a month or the federal jobs guarantee are supposed to be pillows for people to fall and land on when things aren't working out so great. They're supposed to be taking care of the negative or helping out with the negative. They're not meant to $1,000 a month. Like, it's not supposed to be this, the sun shining down thing. It's just supposed to be like a supplement to help it, like, to make sure you don't fall too far. Same thing with the federal jobs guarantee. It's not I have a job, yes. This one job I've always been looking for. It's like, no, that's not it. I'm sure a lot of people want to be rock stars or something. I don't think either one will help you move towards the positive, that upward climb. This is sort of, I think these are meant to help you, to stop you from hitting the downward spiral, right? To mitigate the downward spiral. That's what it sounds like as far as intention. There's a guaranteed job with a guaranteed pay, with guaranteed benefits and a union. So you don't fall off the map and fall into poverty. You have a guaranteed living right here. UBI. You have guaranteed money in your pocket, tax-free every month. $1,000 a month, guaranteed no matter what. If something happens, I have this $1,000 a month to help me out here. I think that's the intention of it. I'm not saying it'll work out that way. I'm saying I think that's the intention of it. To make sure no one falls too far.
I do feel like this criticism often comes from people who are already cushy in their jobs, and they don't really feel the threat of automation or anything, and they haven't really spoken to anyone else who feels the threat of job displacement, and it's easy for them to say, in their ivory tower, oh yeah, people want to work, and let's just give them something to do so that they can make a living. That is much superior than just giving them money, and it's just not. I mean, if people want to work, they're going to work. So you're basically like arguing with yourself.
If we just give everyone $1,000 per month, is that honestly going to solve all of the country's problems? No. Now, to be fair, Andrew Yang doesn't actually suggest that this is the case. However, he doesn't talk about the other policy proposals that he has. He kind of just remains committed to this idea that universal basic income will solve so many problems when in actuality, it's not going to solve that many problems. Again, it would be great, but it's not the end-all be-all. What do you honestly believe would be more beneficial? Giving every single person $1,000 per month, which adds up to $12,000 per year, or guaranteeing everyone a job that pays $70,000, $80,000 per year and provides them with union benefits, stability, and whatnot?
Okay.
All right. I wonder if that's fair saying, the Yang's focus on UBI, because he does talk about other policy, but I would definitely want to see more detail into what he means. I mean, I actually discovered something when I was watching Humanist Report talking about Yang and his healthcare. On his he was showing Yang's website where it said, a public option. And I heard Yang say this as well. About a public option is the way to go to get to, a universal healthcare system. But then Yang changed it to a Medicare for all on his website. He changed it. So it's like find something and be all out detailed. I don't understand why these guys don't just say, I agree with Bernie's plan if he has the best plan, or I agree with Tulsi's foreign policy, and then be able to say it in detail. But they don't want to give each other credit, which is why you got dog shit answers from Bernie Sanders saying, "Oh, people just want to work. They just want to work." That was him being competitive against Andrew Yang's UBI. That was him not giving Yang a leg up in the race by saying that. Why can't he just say, well, if you want to work, you have a job guaranteed. And if not, I like Andrew Yang's UBI, to where you have something else you can fall back on while you're finding your way through life. But, competition because stupid, because of dumbassery. That's why. This might be a long video, and I apologize now.
So, I mean, I don't want to sound mean, by the way, during any of my, rebuttal, okay? But just sometimes these things frustrate me. Like, this guy is actually assuming that under the federal jobs guarantee, most people, the majority of people, are going to get paid $70K a year. Like, are you serious? Like, what reality do you have to be living in to think that the government is all of a sudden going to be able to fit the bill for millions of Americans and pay them $70K a year for just like random jobs that they dig out of nowhere? I mean, I don't understand this logic. $70K a year is about like $35 an hour or something like that. That is way above the minimum wage that Bernie Sanders is proposing.
Yeah, Bernie Sanders' minimum wage is a federal minimum wage. I don't think that applies to what he means by his jobs guarantee. I think it depends on what job you're doing within that system, because I believe it's tied to his Green New Deal, right? So you're not going to have someone who just does paperwork being paid the same amount as the guys who actually construct the fucking thing, who are probably not going to get paid as much as guys who design the certain thing, whatever infrastructure type things like solar panels and wind and all that shit, and the engineers that are going to get paid more and all that stuff. So also that's very affordable by the government. Very, very affordable. And you can tell by just what we spend money on. Right? If someone says, oh, our budget, man, we can't afford all this. We can't afford this. If a war happened tomorrow, they'll pony up enough money without, bankrupting the country. Somehow the money just comes out of nowhere. So you have the money to do it. Let's be real. You have the money, you have the resources to do it. They just choose not to. And I think that's people being tricked by, people complaining about budgets, every year, 24/7. Meanwhile, every president has just ramped up spending constantly. So I would consider that just an ignorant notion. Let's see if she has a second point. If not, I'll skip that. I'll skip to the next segment.
$15 an hour is like 30 grand a year. Okay, so that is more like what the vast majority of people are going to make. Yes, they're going to have some benefits, but again, it's under this premise that people actually want to have a job under the government making minimum wage at $30K a year. That's all going to be taxed, by the way. And you know what? Yes, I would argue that, two people having $24K a year, like on UBI, tax-free, is better than one of those people having to work a minimum wage job with the government that's going to be taxed, and plus, not to mention, wasting their lives away in a meaningless job for 40 hours a week. I would say that, yes, I would much prefer, and I think a lot of people would much prefer to have $12K a year tax-free so that they can spend the rest of their time doing other things that actually mean something to them.
I get that. I get that. But people are asking the question, will it work out that way? Once again, I've talked about things like, or I've heard someone talk about things like price anchors, as in Bernie has talked about, rent control as far as how much you can charge someone. Also, Bernie's plan is it's not $15 minimum wage, it's living wage. I believe that's the concept. So it reflects on the pricing and inflation. It adjusts for inflation, let's put it that way. And I think it works different state by state, I believe. So I think they calculate a living wage, as in I can afford a roof over my head to feed myself, to feed my family. That's what he means by living wage. It's not just $15 an hour. I don't believe it is, at least. So you need way more than the extra $12,000 a year. You need more than that. Most people need more than that. You know, she seems like she's doing well, so extra $12,000 would probably be like, you know, basically for fun. Like, it'd probably help out bills here and there, but she'd probably have a lot left over for just fun stuff, as opposed to someone else who's spending every cent, you know, paying back a debt or doing this or doing that, you know, trying to live. You know. All right, I'm going to skip to the next segment here. Let's go here, I guess.
Situation when you actually try and apply it across America.
If you create this UBI that can one day replace our current social safety net, we're not making ourselves any better off. So you don't want UBI to be implemented in a way where it can be used as a Trojan horse. He basically made it seem like, I don't want UBI to be a Trojan horse to gut our social safety net. However, when he went on Rafe Dubin's show, he said basically the opposite, that, you know, UBI could potentially act as a replacement to welfare programs one day. Still, if you are making somebody choose between welfare and UBI, then that's not truly universal, because somebody who is on food stamps and is poor, they're not technically getting, you know, that extra $1,000 per month. They're having to choose, whereas somebody who makes $100,000 per year and isn't on welfare, they don't have to choose.
Okay, so when it comes to welfare, you guys all know how I feel about it. If you
Decent point from Mike. Let's hear the rebuttal.
If you haven't seen my video on welfare versus UBI, I will try and link it somewhere on the screen. I think it's a very flawed system. A lot of people who commented and watched my video on it and who were on welfare or are on welfare, they basically echoed my sentiments. They said, yes, this is exactly how it works. It keeps people down. It forces people to, you know, feel stuck in their current position, to not socially mobilize, because then they're going to lose their benefits. And it's really, really hard to get. And when you get it, you don't even get that much help. And it's not even really enough to live on anyway. So they just basically feel like they're slaves to their already menial jobs, and in order to like get any of the benefits, and they don't feel incentivized to actually make any more or actually move up in society, because then they're going to lose their benefits. And what's that going to mean? It's going to mean that they're going to have to work extra hard. And like, it's just a flawed system in general, and I really dislike how, and here's the thing, we need the system right now because of the flaws and everything that we have in our current, you know, system as a whole. But I mean, wouldn't it actually be great if we could do away with a welfare state, because everyone has a universal basic income, not the $1,000 a month, but some other form of universal basic income, where people don't have to worry so much about their like basic needs and their survival. Like, anyone doesn't have to worry about that. Like that.
See, I like that, but the problem is, if I'm sitting here dealing with a Yang fan, you don't see the universal basic income in all these other This is why I pointed out Bernie's policy being so overwhelming and overhauling of the system. Because it is a UBI. They just don't want to call it that. Right? Instead of getting money directly in your pocket, it's you're not spending as much because healthcare is taken care of. Or student debt is done away with. College is taken care of. You don't have to worry about paying for your kid's college. Guaranteed jobs at a guaranteed wage. A bare minimum of wage is like, oh, I can live off of this. Not to mention, you know, I doubt he can get all of it done unless the world changes, but you know, if things like electricity become virtually free, other than people doing maintenance, right? I think Bernie is considering the idea of automation, but he's not rushing to it like it's tomorrow. Like tomorrow, it's just robots at your cash register 24/7 from now on. It's like, nah, he doesn't think he's... I bet he considers a UBI or something like Social Security and just expanding it to more people. Right? All right, let's continue.
Would actually be pretty great. Then why would we even need a welfare state? Like, I think we should be moving toward a system where we're not going to need welfare. Like, that would be amazing.
And I think Bernie and Mike agree with you. I think they agree with you. They just don't think if Yang gets one term and it's only 4 years and all he can get done is the UBI, then it's like, oh, you didn't take care of all this other stuff here. Right? If it can potentially replace the welfare thing, the welfare state, whatever you want to call it, it's like, okay, but is that potentially in the present? Or is that 20 years from now or 30 years from now? Wouldn't have to be more than $1,000 a month. So, yeah.
And also, Andrew Yang obviously isn't saying, let's do away with the welfare state. He's saying, no, like, let's let them choose. What would they rather have, $1,000 a month, or would they rather have their current welfare programs? And I think he made the calculation that the vast majority of them would prefer to have UBI. And that is also a consensus that I've gotten from my other video. If you look at the comments, I think there was maybe one other person who said that they would prefer welfare, but by and large, most people on welfare prefer the $1,000 a month. It doesn't limit them. It doesn't give them a ceiling, an earnings ceiling, you know. They can do more with their time, and they can actually try and make a better life for themselves without worry that things are going to be taken away from them. So anyway, again, it's just another guy who was making a comment about something that he knows nothing about. And like I said, 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Don't you think that $1,000 a month for 78% of Americans would be hugely beneficial? So let's...
It would be if you changed everything else. If everything else stays relatively the same, but you just add $1,000 in people's pockets, that's not an overhaul. That's just a supplement to the shitty things we already have. So it won't help the way you think. And people have concerns about that because Andrew Yang as president could get 8 years tops, right? 8 years tops. If, let's say they're like, okay, we'll let your UBI through, but everything else we're going to block you from, whatever, the opposing party or even the Democratic Party oppose it. And he doesn't get anything else done but the UBI. It's like, fuck. The UBI needs to have, it sort of needs to look like the Green New Deal, right? To where it's not just environmental shit. It's like, I need this to happen to, I need this to happen to, I need this to happen to for this whole thing to work. For this whole thing to benefit people. And I'd say the same thing for Andrew Yang's UBI. He needs policy around it to where it's like, okay, this is a guaranteed positive if you want it to work out the way she's saying. To where it's like, yeah, because if you just take random people, you know, off the books, give them $1,000 a month, like, yeah, that's hugely beneficial. But when you make it a universal thing, and like, you have these fucking corrupt motherfuckers with their eyes on it, looking at what's going on, like, okay, time to make some changes now. You need something to negate those changes, or to not allow those changes. Something like rent control, or price anchoring, or something like that. Or, you know, hopefully he is all in with Medicare for all, to where it's, you know, negotiating prices and knocking off competitors that are, you know, if they have no competition, they're ready to just charge you whatever amount of money. Insurance companies, So, there you go. Yeah, I'll skip to the next segment. Does she have a next segment? Is this one? There we go. Let's see.
It's not really taking into account the core
Sorry, this is just a sloppy ass video. I'm just talking shit, honestly.
issues that we face in our current flawed system that Andrew Yang is trying to address.
What's more important, and what Bernie Sanders communicates more so than Andrew Yang, is that we need to change the system. UBI alone isn't going to fix the economy, and I don't necessarily think that Andrew Yang thinks that that's true as well, but what do you think is more important? Changing the entire system, restructuring our economy, or giving everyone $1,000 within our existing system and just saying, all right, that's good. I mean, that's not a very sufficient long-term solution.
All right, that's sort of the point I just made, right? He needs policy around the UBI.
Okay, firstly, I want to know what system he is referring to that Bernie Sanders wants to change with federal jobs guarantee. I'm not really sure what system that is, but
Have you read the Green New Deal? The federal jobs guarantee is a note within the larger policy. It is not the entire thing, right? He's not, I have a federal jobs guarantee. This is just one policy on its own on an island. No. It's a portion of the Green New Deal, right? He wants to transfer, or he wants to get off of fossil fuel energy and move into green energy, right? So it's not only guaranteeing jobs within that new green infrastructure, but it's also the actual green infrastructure itself, which will, like he said, like in Bernie's plan says, as far as how he wants it to go out, will save money over time, right? Also pulling away from wars in the Middle East for oil. Not that I think that's the main reason for me personally. But yeah, there's roundabout things happening within that. It's not just federal jobs guarantee at all. And also, you can't just take the Green New Deal on its own. You have to also factor in Medicare for all and his other policies. The clearing student debt and free state university, state college tuition. So, yes, Bernie's is completely overhauling the system. Completely overhauling it. Yang, I haven't heard anything that's an overhaul, really. All of Yang's plans I've heard sound like supplements to what we already have. Like what does he call it? Democracy dollars. That's to ward off things we already have. I guess that's kind of an overhaul to some degree. You have to write it out as in you can't take money from anyone. No more actual money being used within politics. You have to make that illegal, essentially. And you have to turn it into democracy dollars, or whatever he calls it. What was his other one? I forgot what he called it. The American, it's sort of like a GDP, but a one that only measures normal people, their actual economy. Once again, seems like a supplement, right? And then the UBI, it has to be overhauling. It has to be. Otherwise, I don't think it would work. And there's too many corrupt motherfuckers around. Just being real about it. So, even that comes off as a supplement on its face. I'm sure he has more overwhelming policy than that. But we're in a game where we can't just take your word for it. Lay out the policy for us. Show how it's an overhauling policy. Same thing with whatever he wants to do for healthcare. Put it on paper, man. Draw it out as a policy. Here's how we're gonna do this. Here's how it's gonna be paid for, and don't be afraid to say, I looked at Bernie's thing and fuck, that's the way to go. If you're afraid to say that, then you're in it for winning a game show rather than helping people. All right.
But if you really dug a little bit deeper, Andrew Yang is actually the only candidate who's actually proposing a real paradigm shift in our system. Bernie actually is the
Like what?
one who is proposing a band-aid on top of a system that is already inefficient and isn't really working. Bernie is the one who is not recognizing what automation means for jobs, and yes, that includes federal jobs. And yes, the system does need to change drastically as automation becomes a bigger and bigger threat to job displacement. And you know what, Andrew?
You also have to ward off the corruption that happens. Like a business just saying, all right, no more healthcare, as GM, I guess, is threatening to do, or did already. I think it's threatening to do. But, you know, like, all right, no more benefits. You just get your pay, no benefits with it. It's like, well, wouldn't you rather have a Medicare system, Medicare for all system, to where it's just guaranteed no matter what, so you're not, you know, on your knees for your boss to say, please give me healthcare benefits, please. I think UBI would play a role in that as well. But you know what? I'm out of here. I have a guaranteed income now. It's just, it has to be, if he wants it to be a game changer, it has to be overhauling. It can't just be a UBI in addition to the system we already have. It can't be that on its own.
Yang is the only one who's really talking about it. Bernie is the one who's saying, yeah, we'll give you a career like on a minimum wage doing some menial tasks that you might not necessarily even like or enjoy, that won't even give you any purpose in life, just so that you can survive. I mean, he's the one who's...
It's more than that. See, it is a guaranteed income if you want to work. If you want to work there. If you want to work somewhere else, well, there's a guaranteed living wage. That's also on it. You have to take all of his policies and look at it as a holistic thing, not just federal jobs guarantee on an island by itself. It's like, no. These programs, at least what I've seen from Bernie's policy, the programs all have to work together.
Proposing essentially what will be wage slavery, you know? Someone said this, and it was really funny. They were like, it's like, I mean, I would liken it to like, let's just give them the job of sharpening pencils just so that they can justify their living. Like, that is actually what's kind of twisted. And so what, in like, 15 to 20 years, when 50% of jobs are automated away, we're just gonna like give people random tasks to do to keep busy so that they can feel like they're contributing even though we don't even need them to contribute? Why can't we actually just take care of all of our people and like let them be happy? I don't understand why that is such a hard like paradigm shift, you know? I mean, that is where that's where we need to go with automation. And if you think about it, the whole purpose of automation is to make human beings' lives easier so we don't have to do the menial stuff. Like, the whole purpose is so that robots can actually do the stuff for us. Why?
I agree with that. 100% agree with that. It's just, you know, if all the jobs are taken away by robots, how will $12,000 a year sustain someone? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Will people start moving back towards small businesses or something like that to get work? But yeah, what if these small businesses can't afford benefits like healthcare? Don't you want a, you know, universal healthcare system to where, like, oh, employers don't have to worry about paying for that? Just saying. But yeah, UBI on its own isn't gonna on its own, unless it's increased, unless it's more than $1,000, isn't gonna ward off automation, at least the way they're talking about it. And once again, they make it sound like it's right there tomorrow. Like, tomorrow it's gonna happen, right? Like, is it going to happen after the end of 2 terms of presidency?
Why don't we just apply that to our system and our society and say, yeah, if robots are doing all this stuff for us, like, we don't need to do all that crappy work. Like, I mean, they'll take care of it for us. Like,
also, you know, people do like doing things. Some people might actually like being like a craftsman or retrofitting or things like that. I'm sure there's people that like being cable guys. I'm just saying. So I don't want to just call it a crappy job.
isn't that the mindset that we should have when it comes to automation? Not like just trying to give people busy work to justify their living. Look, I mean, even Elon Musk, Obama, and Mark Zuckerberg. I know a lot of people hate when I mention Mark Zuckerberg, but they're even saying that we need to move toward UBI. If they're saying it, there is some truth to that. This is
Elon Musk, Barack Obama, and Mark Zuckerberg is like, their word means shit to me. It means nothing. It means like nothing to me in regards to something like this. But all right, I'm just gonna skip ahead and find another segment. There we go.
that deep. Just think about it a little deeper, and you're gonna start to see the holes.
Again, I think that they're both wrong in the sense that you don't have to choose between UBI and a federal jobs guarantee. You can technically have both of them.
Okay, so he says, well, why?
That's what I've been saying. Don't you want both? But I like the idea of this one dude. I think his YouTube channel name is Real Progressives, to where he says, instead of universal basic income, just have a basic income, like a guaranteed basic income if you need it, so that if you want to work, you can work at one of these jobs where you get guaranteed minimum amount of pay, guaranteed benefits, and a union. It's guaranteed. It's there for you no matter what. If you want the job, it's yours. But also, if you expand something like Social Security or turn it into something else, what do you call it, like an unemployment check or something like that? Or I would call it a different name because some people choose not to work. So I wouldn't call that unemployment. I call that, floaters. Call it the floater dividend. But I don't want to do that shit. All right, well, you could take this check, guaranteed living income. There you go. I like that idea. Why not both? I know it. This may sound crazy, but I know that shit can happen. 100%. But people have been tricked with words like deficits and look at the deficit, minus $22 trillion. Yet when they need to spend something, they can just spend it. And I don't even mean just printing money. I mean, there's money around to use, to spend, and all that shit. I think it's a game they play with normal people to get them to buckle down. For them to fucking ration their funds. Meanwhile, some guy's getting a $20 million bump in his paycheck. Fuck. You've been bamboozled, guys. Enjoy it. Here we go.
Why do you have to choose between federal jobs guarantee and UBI? And here's the thing. I agree. If the government was super streamlined and we had some jobs and like...
You see, I've heard her say this a couple times. For some reason, I haven't said anything about it, but it's has government really ever been good on anything? And it's like, well, who's going to institute the UBI? Is it going to be private citizens doing it? I mean, I don't know. That seems weird to me. If you're saying, how can you trust the government? I was like, where's the UBI going to come from? Isn't it going to be the government distributing it? Right? Am I tripping on that? There we go.
That would actually add something back to our communities and it would be like efficient and everything like that. And everyone else had UBI and they were taken care of. They don't necessarily need to work. If they don't want to work for the government, then cool. I can actually see a world in which federal jobs guarantee and UBI could work, but not in our current system.
But if you are going...
That's the point of overhauling. That's why Mike is saying UBI won't work. He's saying, well, not in this current system. You need overhauls.
Jobs guarantee and UBI could work, but not in our current system.
But if you are going to choose between one or the other, which is the implication here that both of them believe, then obviously you want something that will increase purchasing power more. And that's going to be a federal jobs guarantee. Like $12,000 a year isn't going to be enough for people to survive. Of course, that's not going to be enough. So, you need to make sure that people are guaranteed a good paying job.
Okay, again, this guy is just assuming federal jobs guarantee is going to basically be able to guarantee every single person a lifelong career within the government.
Yeah, that's sort of what it says on paper. Guaranteed. Straight up. In fact, the fossil fuel industry workers will be the first in line. First of all, they're probably the most suited for it. Obviously, they'll need like trainers to transfer over, how to, these guys are like laborers. They work with their hands. They do measurements. They do shit like that. This seems like it might even be easier to learn, I would think. Maintenance and stuff like that. And they have a guaranteed wage of what they had in the other industry. That's guaranteed straight up for 5 years. Even if they decide not to work, they still get 5 years pay. That's sort of like a UBI. I'm sure there's a lot of fossil fuel industry workers too. So, yeah. Once again, people believe that. I understand that. People believing like, oh, the government's bad. Government does bad shit. Yeah, they do. So why are we going to trust them with this? I get that. But make that your main argument rather than saying, well, we can't trust the government with this program, but you can trust the government with this program over here. My program works. I know the government has to do it, but, it's my program. That's why it's better. Well, this is why I always go right to, hey, let's get rid of corruption first. Let's get rid of corruption first. That's why I always say when we're watching these debates, I'm like, oh, the main thing I look for is foreign policy first. Because your domestic policy means nothing if you still kill people overseas. It means absolutely nothing. There is a compromise in morality, compromise in values immediately. As soon as you shoot that first drone missile off, there's already a compromise in your values. Thus, subconsciously, I don't think people can get along with whatever the fuck you want to do domestically. It'll always have some sort of corrupt thing circling it.
This is just not the reality. It is not, I don't even know how anyone can fool themselves to thinking that this is something the government can guarantee. It's just not feasible or
Explain how it's not possible, considering Bernie has pages upon pages explaining how it will work. He has a think tank explaining on pages and pages and pages of how it will work for all his policies, basically. Right? He's explaining how he's going to overhaul it. Quite blatantly. This, and this. We start there. And once we're done with that, we do this, and this. Here's how it will work. This. Here's how you pay for it. This. Just blatantly laid out for you. So to just say, I can't see how the government would do that. Well, I think Bernie plans on writing laws about this stuff, as Yang will have to do in order to get his UBI, to get what his UBI sounds like he wants it to do. In order for it to do that, he has to do some sort of overhauling policy. It can't just be UBI on its own. Right? If you instill, let's say he gets UBI done in his first year. It's like, without all the anchoring and without all the overhauling policy, and you still have corruption around, you're not even dealing with corruption, it's like, good luck. Like, what if a recession happens? They say, okay, we're going to ration your UBI now. I can see him writing a policy for that. That seems inherent in his policy, that it adjusts for any type of scenario that could happen. Okay. But does it adjust pricing? Does it adjust to rent control? Will rent, go up? Will it adjust to all of that? That seems a lot more like, taking a leap of faith. A lot more than Bernie's idea of, no, we're going to completely change the policy to where this is it. It's in the law now. All right. Let's skip to the next segment. It's going to be a long video. Big stuff coming out here. Big stuff.
Proposal that yes, there are going to be like millions of jobs that are going to be available for people while we try to transition into green energy, and also while we try and fix our infrastructure.
I would still say that the federal jobs guarantee long term is more important, but that's not to say that UBI wouldn't help. I just don't really get why Andrew Yang is criticizing Bernie Sanders here.
Okay, long term, does he even have any idea?
Oh, it's because they're competing. Like, where's the moral champion that says, fuck, I haven't thought of that. That's a good fucking idea. I like that idea. I'm going with that idea too. Yeah, I'll say your name and give you credit and shit, but it's the idea. That's the thing. In a, realistic society, I'd say a better society, they would be like, fuck. Hey man, whoever wins, let's work with each other. I like that idea. And it seems like you like my idea. Maybe what if we combine those? It's like, really think about it.
Idea about what long-term means, or I would love to know what his long-term means for him. Economists say 50% of jobs are going to be lost due to automation. Long-term is half of our workforce won't have jobs. I mean,
well, as far as Bernie's job guarantee, well, there's going to be instilled unions. So if you want to take a robot and relate it essentially to like a temp worker, right? Someone who comes in and does your job for cheaper prices and doesn't get any benefits because they're not a long-term worker, they're just a temp worker. It's like, wouldn't that sort of reflect like automation? A robot that is cheaper to pay for, you just buy them once or whatever and pay for maintenance and stuff. They cheaper pay, and you don't have to give them benefits because they're fucking robots. Isn't that like a temp worker? That sounds like something union workers fight against. Very interesting. So as far as the federal jobs guarantee, they'll be replaced with robots? You sure about that? What if the union has equal power to the employer? What if that's a part of Bernie's plan? Could that actually happen then? Could they just be replaced by robots? Something tells me no. And something tells me it'll change into something else. That this, at least in Bernie's mind, the federal jobs guarantee would just be a foundation to work off of until you move on to something else where it's like, fuck, we could just let robots do this. And we could just live like normal lives. Without the labor.
If the government gives half of the workforce jobs that aren't even necessarily needed at the point, like what are people going to do? Like sharpen pencils, have like a pencil sharpening competition with robots just to keep them busy to justify like their living?
Well, that's what, like I said, that's what unions are for.
I'm sorry, but I don't think this guy really understands the bigger picture, even though he keeps talking about the bigger picture. And Andrew Yang, yes, he is attacking federal jobs guarantee because he realizes it is a flawed proposal. He's not just trying to attack Bernie. He's like, hey guys, like, this is not the direction we should or need to be going in. Like, let's start steering away, okay, before we get into some serious crap. Not to mention the fact that it would be years until this kind of program would be implemented. Meanwhile, millions of people will be suffering.
If I were Andrew Yang, I'd say...
Yeah. It seems like something you should try to get done immediately. But then again, wouldn't UBI have to take years as well? Like I said, all the other policy surrounding it has to get done in a way first. Right? What's $1,000 a month if you have a $1,000 emergency? As far as, you know, healthcare, right? So he's going to have to get some sort of stability in these other areas, right? Healthcare, once again, even like a wage, a guaranteed minimum. Like this is the least amount of money you can make, right? A minimum wage. Right, that might be needed as well. So he's gonna have to overhaul some things. He's gonna have price controls in a way, in order to handle, you know, say, oh fuck, the workers got $1,000, or the customers get an extra $1,000 so they can buy more. We can raise the prices slowly, very, very slowly raise the prices to where, you know, $1,000 doesn't mean as much. I mean, unless, you know, Yang's plan is to have it, you know, has it handle inflation, I guess. I'm not an expert, I'm just saying. If Yang's $1,000 a month is, you know, reflective of inflation, so inflation goes way up, then all of a sudden it's $2,000 a month or something like that. Oh, okay. But then again, you still have to handle the healthcare thing. Obviously, you can't just live off of $12,000 a year, so you're going to have another job. Are you going to do overhauling in those areas as well? And then on and so forth. Are you going to be able to handle the military? Part of me says, fuck no, for Andrew Yang. I fucking doubt that shit. I think he'll walk the line there. In which case, we're spending, you know, money on that shit.
Would be implemented. Meanwhile, millions of people will be suffering.
If I were Andrew Yang, I'd say, all right, you know what? I'm going to outflank Bernie from his left. I'm going to propose a federal jobs guarantee and UBI that isn't a replacement for our social safety net. It supplements our existing social safety net.
No, he cannot do that because federal jobs guarantee is a crappy proposal and it's incredibly, incredibly expensive. Not to mention just very flawed.
That wasn't a great explanation at all, because it sucks and it's bad. Just to mention, according to Bernie Sanders, his plan would save money over time because it's sort of a stretch, but it depends on how much you buy into the human created, you know, climate change, you know, stuff. So he's saying it'll be cheaper in the sense of, okay, things like, you know, natural disasters will be happening less frequently, or, you know, damage to housing from floods and all that stuff. He's saying all that will go down, so thus the cost will be way less. That's his explanation for that. But I hear people say we have essentially an abundance of money in a way to spend on our citizens. Yeah.
It was a tepid criticism at best.
Honestly, his whole argument against UBI versus federal jobs guarantee is a tepid analysis. Like, no offense.
Bigger picture, fixing the entire economy is more important than giving people, you know, $1,000 per month and not changing the system. The goal, number one priority, is to change the system. Bernie wants to do that. Andrew Yang wants to make some tweaks around the edges, which is why I support Bernie Sanders over Andrew Yang.
I completely agree. Bigger picture, change the system. But if you don't even know what the bigger picture is, you can't effectively change the system in order to meet the bigger picture needs. This is exactly the trap that this guy falls into, and a lot of people who criticize Yang fall into. They just aren't able to see the bigger picture from an elevated perspective. It's just way too superficial of an analysis without digging into the economics behind it or the realities behind it. Look, Yang is the only one who is actually proposing solutions that are going to meet the demands or meet the needs of automation taking over, 50% of US jobs in the next, 10 to 20 years. He is the only one proposing that. And 1K UBI a month, that is just a starting point. It's an introduction. I mean, imagine if he was like, eventually in about 50 years, we're gonna need a 5K a month UBI, so let's go with that right now, guys. Can you imagine the outcome?
But he only gets 8 years at the most. Is the person who comes in next is he gonna institute that in his, is Yang himself gonna institute that in his first term or second term or whatever, or within his time period of being president, to say 50 years it increases to 5,000? Well, what guaranteed, how's he gonna have any leverage in that? He's gonna say, look, automation's gonna take over at some point and blah 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 blah. And so what if there's you're going to have corrupt asshole, Congress people are going to be like, I don't see that happening. No. So no. It sounds unrealistic. We're not doing that. If it's going to happen, we'll wait for the next guy to do it. And then they start playing with you, right? They start making the numbers go up and down and up and down and holding you hostage. Alright, so she's starting to move into fangirling stuff, so I'm going to play this video, just because I'm not even editing, fuck it. Video's already too long. Let's see what this guy says. I might let the whole thing play. Fuck, it's a half hour, motherfucker. He did a 10-minute video, I think. Let's see if I can find this video. Okay, that's way too long ago. Okay. Here we go. God damn it, this is fucking 20 minutes. Whatever. I'll play the video of this dude, going off. It's hilarious. There we go.
I want to first off say thank you so much, Jordan Cheriton, for having me on Status Coup. It was a great time talking about the UBI, amongst other things that I imagine will be coming out in the next coming days over there with Jordan. So thank you again for having me on. Look forward to working together at other times. All right, that said, I spoke to Jordan the other day about the universal basic income, or as some call it, the unconditional basic income. And then I talked to them about Andrew Yang's proposals, and more importantly about his advisor, Scotty Snake Oil Salesman Santons. And I want to talk to you all a little bit about some of the fallout from that, which is just preposterous. First of all, there's nothing I said in that video that's not unassailable. Completely to the point, spot on. But the way these Yang Gang folks work, they don't work in a situation where they're actually addressing what you say. What they do is they come at you like a zombie horde. Drone after drone after drone after eyes rolling back so far in your head you can see your brains kind of drone after drone. You remember that old movie World War Z where the zombies just kept crashing into the wall out there in Israel? Wham, wham, wham. They just... That's the Yang Gang. It's not. There's no thought going into the comment.
I'm not approving all of his message. That's all I'm saying. I don't say that's all of the Yang Gang. I definitely don't say that.
There's no actual meaning. They have a Medium article that Scott Santens wrote. And have you read the article by Scott? Have you read the article? Yes, I've read the article. I read the article. And so much of it is a waste of time. First of all, give them credit. They acknowledge that they're going to get rid of certain programs that they think are ineffective. And then they're saying, oh, and it's going to be on top of other ones, this UBI thing that they're approaching, the freedom dividend. But the problem with it isn't whether or not we give people a basic income. The problem is the U and the unconditional or the universal. And because they won't address the very key points that I brought out in the last video with Jordan, because that 20-minute shot was so concise and so in your face and so right there, the weeping and gnashing of teeth that came about from the religious, folks, these are religious zealots. In no way, shape, or form are they thinking people. They're not even trying to think. They're not taking the information and processing it. They're not even asking decent questions. Instead, drone after drone after drone, bodies stacking up like the zombies. Okay? Oh, look at him. Oh, he brought up Xboxes. Oh, he did this. Look, in the interview I did with Jordan, what I tried to do was explain the idea of supply and demand. And I tried to explain because a ways back when the PlayStation 1 first came out, my son wanted a PlayStation 1. And we knew that they had purposely limited the production of PlayStation 1s to drive demand. They wanted to create a stir. They wanted to make it the must-buy toy of the year. So we got word that Best Buy was going to be opening up at 3 a.m. for people to show up to get the new PlayStation 1. So we showed up 3 a.m. with a line wrapped around the parking lot. And they only had 50 PlayStation 1s in the entire store. But there were literally 300 people waiting there at that time of the morning to get a PlayStation 1. Now, what happened? As soon as we walked out of the building, there were people outside that were saying, hey, man, if you didn't get a PlayStation 1, I got one here. I got 3 of them here. I'll sell it to you. The price at the time was like, I don't know, $300 or $200 or what the hell it was. And they were like, well, I'll give it to you for $1,000. Okay. Now, these bozos, unfortunately, are out there saying, hey, he's talking about Xboxes. These people, I'll just call them people for now. I was trying to use an analogy that these folks might get, but instead they decided to pervert it and try to make some mockery out of it, like I didn't know what the fuck I was talking about. Unfortunately, I know exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. So in any event, I used an Xbox analogy. It didn't go over with a few of them because nothing that I said went over with them. Why? Because they don't want it to go over. They are religiously wed to a UBI. Never mind the fact that I said that I was in support of a basic income, which we already have in Social Security that can be expanded, that none of them acknowledged it, to accommodate all these different new areas that they seem to want to accommodate. I'm saying to them, we already have a basic income in existence today. We need to beefen it up. We need to fatten it up. We need to get rid of the FICA tax, which is regressive. And we need to make it available for more people, more circumstances that we would like to fund as a nation. Democratically choose what we want to fund. They didn't hear that. They didn't want to. That kind of disingenuous, dishonest thinking that doesn't acknowledge these things is reprehensible. Let's be fair. It's not even decent. It's disgusting.
All right, so I probably played the wrong video. This is him, I guess, post the interview with Jordan Sheridan, and explaining his thoughts on the quote-unquote Yang Gang, which I don't think are like bad people at all. I think they just found a candidate they want to ride for. So, but here's his argument against the UBI.
Right. Let's move on to Andrew Yang. Full disclaimer to the audience before the Yang gang goes down my throat and Steve's. I've reached out, I think twice. Not recently, but a couple months ago, I reached out twice to get Andrew Yang on Status Coup. So this is not, gratuitously attacking him or anything like that. I'd love to interview him. So invitation's out there. I'm sure you would as well. So Yang, I think one head-to-head poll recently, I think it was in New Hampshire actually, had him beating Trump handily. He's been 3 or 4% in some national polls. He's been in every debate so far. He'll be in this one. So I think he's got a little bit, obviously not with the racism and that kind of stuff, but he's got a little bit of that outsider thing that Trump capitalized on in 2016, a little bit of that business thing. And on paper, I think what he's proposing sounds great. It sounds like, $12,000 a year on top of what you're already making if you work for a living, generally middle class or whatever's left of the middle class. So that could be a huge supplementary income on paper. But there seems to be a lot of strings attached to it that I think his supporters are a little naive about. I also think there's a separate issue from MMT, which is this defeatist attitude of automation is inevitable. We're all here's $1,000 a month because there's nothing we could do. Let's start with the first. What are people not seeing about Andrew Yang's UBI, which again, $12,000 a month, so $1,000 monthly, but it's that or social welfare programs. You can't get that and still be on food stamps and still get SSI and still get a lot of these social welfare programs that the most vulnerable of our society depend on.
Yeah. So first things first, I am 1,000% against the UBI, and the most like out of every issue out there, I probably couldn't be more against a UBI. And it starts there. God, the list of things. And I hope folks actually take the time when I do what I'm about to do to fact check me. Don't just go, get religious on me and start screaming like you're a Christian in the audience at some, heathen, I'm telling you facts. All right. So the thing is that let's just say hypothetically, I give every person $1,000 a month, every person. Right. So the poor people get their $1,000 a month and they're going to be trying to buy bread. They're going to be trying to buy whatever. The middle class gets that and they're going to say, oh, let me go ahead and pay off some debts. Maybe I save $200 a month after I pay off some debts. And then the rich take that money and they go ahead and invest it in something. And that wealth starts growing again because investor grade interest rates, they're making money once again on this money. So they're exacerbating the wealth gap once again, furthering and furthering and furthering the existing neoliberal paradigm. This is 1,000% a neoliberal program. There is no price anchor, none, zero. So if I give you $1,000 and I give Sally Sue $1,000, I give everybody $1,000 without a price anchor, without something to anchor that, all happens is that you build into an inflationary situation where now the cost of goods that the poor really needed, they really needed the goods and services. They didn't need the cash. They needed the goods and services. Well, you've already told them to eat their peas. Here's your $1,000 and they'll shut up and go away. Okay, this pittance, this is the new underclass that the tech billionaires are trying to push forward so that they can create a new society in their own image where they get all the benefits of automation and the rest of us get to eat our peas.
So to dumb it down, basically, if you suffocate all this money into the economy, there's more money in people's pockets, you're saying prices will go up.
It's not, so there's you want to keep it slowed down, dumbed down, whatever, but there is a slight difference here. It's really not about the amount of money in there. If we gave everybody $1 or if we gave everybody $10,000, it's really about relative buying power spread out amongst the people. So the real question becomes, can we produce the real goods and services that are required to meet the new demand that you have now expanded throughout the entire economy? And you can say automation, but there's no evidence that automation is going to suddenly take on enough to pay for to create the real goods and services that demand would be there. Look at something as simple as the Xbox. I use this example all the time. Right now, Xbox, let's say it's $500 per. And, people that got to have a little bit of cheddar to go out there and blow it on some luxury item like an Xbox. Well, what happens if everybody suddenly has $500 in the pocket that wants to buy an Xbox? Well, it's not making it more. It doesn't make it cost more. What happens is that now you've got 20 million people that want those 500 Xboxes, whereas before it was 400 wanted it or whatever. So now there's a black market that comes about. Now you've driven up the price based on the basic supply and demand that basic economics teaches us. So there's no production there to meet demand with a UBI. There's literally no production. And so when we look at Yang's proposals, what they're actually doing is, number one, and Yang has come right out and said, hey, we'll subsidize shit wages. What are you talking about? This is the anti-labor movement of all time. I mean, this has countered everything that you would ever dream of. The right has begged for this forever. They've wanted to slash away the social safety nets. They've wanted to get rid of any kind of government services. It's not just the money, it's the services. Because the government can always pay any price increase. You really want the food. You really want the medical care. You really want these things. You don't want $1,000 to go out there and forage in the market to find health care. You don't want $1,000 to forage around for things. Housing, it just starts steamrolling out of control. And this is not hyperbole. This is literally how this shit works. And so, people that are desperate, they see, oh, here's $1,000. They're like, oh my God, Andrew Yang, you're my God. Scott Santon's, you're my God. Never mind, you're a snake oil salesman.
Well,
okay.
What do you say? Because I've seen comments under videos I've done critiquing Yang from people on disability who say, I've had to fight through bureaucracy and this and that, and I'm still not. Some of them have gotten benefits. Some of them still haven't gotten approved. And the ones that are approved, really, whatever their combination of benefits are for programs they're on, are less than $1,000 a month that they're getting. So on paper, they would be getting more from Yang, so they argue for Yang's programs.
Okay, so let's think about this. What is the real problem in your statement right there? We've already gone through this. Austerity in general, these programs are underfunded because we believe that the government's broke. It can't do nice things, so we got to cut spending, eat our peas, like Obama said. I mean, it's pathetic. So when you underfund a program, you can make it look as shitty as you can make it look. You can make it look, the United States can bomb the world, but damn it can't figure out how to process unemployment. Come on, give me a fucking break. It's ridiculous. It's intentional. It's not an accident, okay? And the reality is that even if you gave them $1,000 and they said, oh, well, that's better pricing than the other, well, now everybody's got that $1,000. And the price of those things without a price anchor, you're thinking everything's just going to stay the same. Not a chance. Look at Walmart, for example. Right now today, Walmart already subsidizes shit wages with welfare. Okay, you got Bernie out there trying to push the Amazon, the Walmart plan, basically to bust their chops if their people are on welfare because they're not paying a living wage. Ultimately, this is just a cash giveaway, and it's not. I don't care. Hey man, if it would work, I'd be all for it, but it doesn't work. There's no tie to the real goods and services. You've been living under a bridge. You've been living in conditions. Here's $1,000, man. Make your life your own, brother. Really? I mean, it's so preposterous to think that would be the way it would be. Instead of fighting to fix the damn, systems, because all these systems, whether it be public or private, all of them have to function. You've got to fix the processes. You've got to fix the systems that support it. You've got to identify the real problems and not just keep bypassing and saying, here, take some Milton Friedman cash because all capitalism needs is a little bit more money to keep the stock market growing. That's what this comes down to. It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. I'm not that great on economics. But you can hear two completely different narratives, basically. Right? He's going the route of, when Paget Kagy made that one video saying the difference between Yang Gang and Bernie Bros. And it's like, no, these are the arguments that are being spoken about Andrew Yang. Not the, we're jealous of his policies, so that's why we don't like him. None of that. That's absolute bullshit. These are the real arguments. These are the ones you need to address. The quote-unquote Trojan horse narrative of, And apparently, I get this guy used to be like a Ron Pauler, I guess. I think he said that. And I do not hold the expertise to tell you, whether he's correct or not. What I am getting is more detail from him than either the Humanist Report or Paget Kagy. That's what I'm definitely getting, is a lot more detail. So I'd love to hear a counter to his point. Granted, he has more videos on it. Like I said, you got 10 more minutes left in this video. You have 30 in that other video. So I would say, instead of watching me, go watch this interview. I will link it in the description box. I'll also link the other video I started playing, to where he's sort of shitting on the Yang Gang. Sorry, I didn't know he was going to do that right from the jump. Thought I was going to explain a little more. But, yeah. Go check out all the videos that are going to be linked in the description box. The Paget Kagy video, and the Status Coup video, and the Real Progressives video. Check those out. And then tell me what you think in the comment section. Please. And subscribe if you feel like. You could do that. Then you have to donate to Devon's Journey to Recovery. None of the money goes to us. It helps out someone else, one of our subscribers and his wife. Help them pay medical bills. So please donate to that. Devon's Journey to Recovery. GoFundMe link in the description box. And with all that said, give this video, this overtime, too long of a video, just give it a thumbs down, please. Please do that. Thank you.
Say you wanna get in.